Your kids are dressing in black. They're talking about vampires, bats, and black cats. They're reading books by writers like Edgar Allan Poe, Anne Rice, watching horror movies and listening to bands like Susie and the Banshees, Bauhaus, The Cure, Sisters of Mercy, Love and Rockets, and London After Midnight. They're playing with Ouija boards and hanging out in cemeteries and other spooky places. Are you getting worried? Relax, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. Your kid is just a goth. Hi, I'm Shawn James, author of two books featuring goth heroines, Spinsterella, which I published in 2015, and Spellbound, which is coming out this Halloween. And over the last 3 years, I have done extensive research on the goth subculture. And I wanted to take a minute to share what I have learned with parents so that they can come to a better understanding of what the goth subculture is about and feel more comfortable about their child being a part of the goth subculture. Now, from the 3 years of research I have done on the goth subculture, I spent thousands of hours watching numerous YouTube videos and reading numerous goth websites, and I spent time talking to people who were a part of the goth subculture online. And from what I have learned from them, again, goth is absolutely nothing you need to worry about. The goth subculture is one of the safest places a child could be these days compared to other cultures in America, such as the hip hop culture or other cultures that are a part of America. And a lot of people look at the goth subculture and they judge it based on their frame of reference. And that frame of reference usually is based on their own personal life experiences. And because they're coming from their own personal life experiences, they often make preconceived notions and false judgments about the goth subculture. And the biggest false idea many people have about the goth subculture is that it's associated with Satanism. I spent over about 3 years watching those videos about the goth subculture, talking to people in the goth subculture, and reading their words. And every person, 100%, has said from all over the world, not just the United States, all over the world, in the UK, Ireland, France, Germany, Japan, even Islamic countries, every person who was a part of the goth subculture has said goth has absolutely nothing to do with religion. So your child is not a Satanist. Just because they are dressed in black, they are not affiliated with any religion. In fact, many goths primarily either are agnostic or they are Christian, and some are Jews, some are even Muslim, and that's primarily shows that the goth subculture has absolutely nothing to do with religion. Many goths still practice their religion while being goth, so a lot of people need to understand that that whole concept, is false. So when a lot of people think about the goth subculture, a lot of parents, they think that that's one of the reasons why the goth subculture is bad. The goth subculture, is not a bad place. In fact, it just brings out what is already there in your child. So you have to understand the statement that's being made with being goth. Now, what is a goth? A goth is a person who just sees the world from a darker perspective. And because they see the world from a darker perspective, that's the reason why they are dressing in black. Because they see things from that dark point of view, and they see the beauty in things that are many people would consider macabre or strange and unusual. So they see things that are beautiful in those things, and that's one of the reasons why they are dressing in black and wearing those religious symbols. And in many cases, when they wear those religious symbols, it's to make an ironic statement or a satirical one regarding those religious things. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of people will go out here and wear things like ankhs and pentagrams and symbols like that. It's not to make some sort of satanic statement. It's in many cases to make an ironic statement, such as with the ankh, which is a symbol of life, and you have a person dressed up darkly as if they are mourning in death, or they're wearing these other symbols, again, to make those ironic and satirical statements regarding them. Now, a lot of people look at the goth subculture, and they also have this other preconceived notion that goth is some sort of cult, and this is another, idea a lot of parents have regarding the goth subculture. I can honestly tell you again that the goth subculture is not a cult. It is not a gang. No one recruits people to be a part of the goth subculture. People become a part of the goth subculture because they want to come into the goth subculture. Everything with the goth subculture is about choice and about freedom. So people can come into the goth subculture if they want, and they can leave anytime they want. And in many cases, quite a few people, they will come in and they will go out. And some will stay and some will go. And this is just how the subculture goes, because goth is a subculture, and in a subculture, people have choices, people have freedom. It is not like a gang which goes out and tries to bully and recruit people into it, and it's not like a cult which tries to manipulate people into joining it and being a part of its ranks. In the goth subculture, again, people have that freedom to come into the subculture, and they have that freedom to leave the subculture. Many teenagers come into the goth subculture for a short time, and it's a phase for them. And many people come into the subculture young, and they wind up staying into it into their 40s, their 50s, and even their 60s. So the goth sub, with it being a subculture, it is a way of life for some people, and is the way they want to live. So, for many people, goth is like an alternative lifestyle. It is a way of living. It is a way of life, and they pretty much every aspect of their life is goth. While for others, they are goth on the weekends because they have full-time jobs and they have to wear business attire to go to work. So they can't really dress darkly to go to work, so they have to put on business clothes. And in the subculture, they call those weekenders. But that's working class people, and there are people who have jobs and do dress goth because they have that openness in their job, and that's called the corporate goth. But a lot of parents with their kids need to understand that, you know, this is a subculture, and your child is wanting to be a part of this subculture right now. So if they are being a part of it, you just have to support them in it. And if they want to make this a lifestyle, that will be their choice. They have that freedom to come and go as they please in the subculture. There is no forcing someone to come into it. There is no bullying. No one is harassing anyone to be a part of the subculture. Now, some parents out here, they get really upset about their child being a goth, but again, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. Compared to other parts of life and other lifestyles, the goth subculture is, again, one of the safest places a child could be. In the almost 40 plus years the goth subculture has been around, since it came from the UK back in the late 70s, I can look at it and see that there's been pretty much next to no violent incidents at any goth event, such as your Wave Graphic Treffen in Germany, or the annual pilgrimage of goths to Disneyland, or even concerts that many goths go to. There hasn't been any sort of violent incident. You compare that to what happens with rap and hip hop, where there's practically shootings at many of these events and all sorts of violence. Your child is safer going to a goth concert or a goth event than they are going to even a regular rock concert or any event like that. And a lot of people, they would sit there and tell you that the goth events and the goth subculture, is one of the worst places to be. But parents need to understand, it's, again, one of the safer subcultures here in America, because a lot of the people in the goth subculture, again, they're non-violent, they're pacifistic. And their view of life, while it is darker, is to work together and present the best image of their subculture forward. And one of the tenets of the goth subculture is to agree to disagree. If you have an opinion that someone is different from yours, you learn to agree to disagree and to let it go on, and then just you go on and your way and they go on their way. And that's just how it is. There's no people trying to take things personally. Yes, there are elitists who try to push people out of the circle, but the whole thing is that with the elitists, you also have other people who come back and, in their agreement to disagree, and will try to say, look, don't let that person discourage you. If you want to be here, you be here, and then just go find a new circle of people to be around, just don't be around that person. So a lot of people would look at this goth subculture again. They look at it from their view, which is a negative view, and they look at it from the outside. But under you have to really do the research on it to understand what's positive about it. And I've done the research on it, and this is not something you would need to worry about. You really don't need to worry about your child being a goth. If anything, it is a positive thing because that different view is going to give you a different understanding of the world, and it's going to allow you to have a closer relationship with your child. A lot of people look at the goth subculture and they think it's something that's going to drive their child away from them, but the whole best thing for you to do when your child decides to be a part of this subculture is to support them in it and to embrace it, because this is your child showing you a part of themselves and they want to share that part of themselves with you. You just have to open yourself up to them and allow them to connect with you and share with the things that they like, because this can be a very positive experience for both of you, and it can bring you all closer together as a family. And that's one of the things that I see that's really positive about the goth subculture, is that it brings people together, and the people are very loving and caring and very kind towards each other. And that's one of the most positive things I have seen, in this subculture. You can take two goths and they can be in the room and they will work together with each other. They will be friends with each other, and they'll be friends with the people around them. That's how kind and open and supportive they are of each other. And when I've seen goths around, they are the kind of kids that you would be very proud to have in your family, and they're the kids you would be proud of, because that they're very positive and everything they do is fairly positive. You don't see them getting into trouble. Yes, they dress differently and they read dark books and things like that, but you don't really see too many goths getting into trouble. You see them pretty much, they focus on school, they focus on work, and they focus on being the best people that they can be. And as a parent, you should really support your kids, because goth is absolutely nothing you need to worry about. Now, if you want to learn more about a goth in their early years, which is called their baby bat years, I urge you to pick up my new novel, Spellbound. This novel is the story chronicling a goth heroine's for early days in the goth subculture, and it'll be available this Halloween in paperback and in Kindle. And it really is a positive story and will really show you what's positive about the goth subculture. I'm urging you parents to really pick this one up and share it with your kids. It's great reading for the whole family, and I really want everybody to know, if your child is a goth, it's absolutely nothing to worry about.